On December the 1st, 2005, a public hearing was held on Capitol Hill. It was sponsored by the Council for the National Interests. The featured speaker at the event was former Representative Paul Findley of Illinois. Here is Mr. Findley, in his own words, focusing on his plan to get the U.S. forces out of Iraq.
We meet at a time of great peril to our nation. The most menacing that I've known in my lifetime, that spans 84 years. I believe the invasion of Iraq was the worst U.S. blunder in American history. Certainly the most menacing to the well-being of the America that I cherished so much as a young man. If we fail to exit Iraq promptly, our nation and the world run the risk of being engulfed in a wider, more grisly conflict that could degenerate into an enormous, costly clash of civilizations. Christendom versus Islam. I do not exaggerate. I'm distressed at President Bush's failure to recognize this reality and to change course. A few members of the House and Senate, a few members of Congress, House and Senate, have bravely and wisely called for an early exit, the latest and most prominent being John Murtha, whom I enjoyed as a colleague 25 years ago. But none of these has set forth a step-by-step plan for achieving the withdrawal, nor to my knowledge has any other public figure, certainly not the President. And in these remarks, I hope to fill that void, and here are my recommendations. The President must make a public announcement that includes these following elements. I have 4 to list. First, a presidential order for the immediate cessation of combat initiatives within the borders of Iraq by U.S. troops and coalition forces. The carnage has to stop, so far as U.S. forces can stop it. And U.S. forces must limit any further gunfire to legitimate self-defense. No more Fallujahs, no more assaults on villages and cities. Secondly, the President must promise in precise, unambiguous terms the total withdrawal of all U.S. military, diplomatic, and contractor personnel soon after the newly elected government takes power, except for the normal complement of diplomats and Marine Guards. The deadline must be precise. I suggest 9 months after the takeover by the new government, and the promised withdrawal must be total, no exceptions. Anything short of that will leave Iraqis uncertain about the real motivations and intentions of the administration. Third, the President must specify a procedure under which certain U.S. units can be exempt from the withdrawal. He should promise to exempt any U.S. units that are precisely requested by the new government and approved, importantly, by the UN Security Council. Council approval, in my view, is vitally important because it will convey a sanction of great importance, namely international endorsement of any continued U.S. presence in Iraq. And finally, the President must pledge generous U.S. help in funding reconstruction projects that the new government may undertake in the years to come. This announcement would effectively end U.S. involvement in Iraq in less than a year. But its provisions would avoid any onus of a cut-and-run departure. The plan offers the possibility, remote as it may be, of a continued U.S. presence if circumstances lead the new government and the Security Council to endorse that step. The announcement must be devoid of ambiguous words and phrases. If it is crystal clear, I am positive that it will inspire an immediate reduction in anti-American insurgency in Iraq and go far in dismissing the widely held belief that U.S. forces really invaded Iraq mainly for Israel and for oil, not to bring freedom and democracy to the Iraqi people. We must face grim reality. Our massive combat assaults on Iraq are unavailing. They have increased, not diminished, the insurgency. Much of Iraq is now a killing field, and our government, our president, and our Congress are held responsible for this fault. In his latest statements, President Bush admits no error, offers no change in doctrine or tactics. He says military operations will continue until Iraq is free of insurgents and until freedom and democracy are established, no matter how long that will take and at what cost. Ultimately, Iraqis will have to sort out their own internal conflicts. And if civil strife is inevitable, as it may well be, the departure of U.S. forces by a date certain should mercifully shorten the misery. My greatest fear is that President Bush does not yet grasp the enormity of the peril at hand and will persist in his quest for a military victory. Our best hope is that a rising tide of public and congressional protest will change his mind. There is no easy answer to the peril that America finds itself in today, but I believe the step-by-step process recommended here is the best possible path to follow. It accomplishes full withdrawal in a way that would reduce, if not eliminate, insurgency, and without causing region-wide instability. And I'm sure it would elicit applause from the Arab community and the Muslim communities worldwide, as well as among other groups. The suggested presidential announcement would also curb speculation about an emerging U.S. empire. It would help to refurbish America's worldwide moral standing and end the ugly U.S. role in the killing fields in Iraq.